Hey everyone, it's John with Roadkill Incorporated. So I was browsing Facebook Marketplace for retro stuff, and I always forget about Facebook Marketplace for some reason. I forget that it's a thing. But it is, and I was browsing it, and it's funny how when you are looking for things, you magically find them. And I came across this really, really bizarre computer. It's a Commodore 128D, which is the fairly unusual and rare desktop version of the Commodore 128 with a separate keyboard, except it's been gutted and replaced with a VIC-20, which I just never heard of such a thing. Like, you're downgrading a Commodore 128 to a far worse computer, but it's also kind of cool. So yeah, and it's only $150, which is, I mean, that's a great deal. Commodore 128s go for like $500 these days. So I messaged the person and worked it out, and I'm doing a pickup at the recycler tomorrow, so I'll just knock this out with it, and we'll see what we have. At the very least, it's going to make a video, so we'll see what this looks like. Hey everyone, doing a pickup today. This is the scrap I'm dropping off, mostly old, dead iPad 1s. We'll be picking up something like 175 MacBooks, so I'll go get those and we'll see what they look like. All right, did the pickup, 175 or so MacBooks, and then I am off to Buffalo, Minnesota to pick up the Commodore VIC-20 in a 128D case. I think this is a 2020 MacBook right here. Interesting that they packaged it this way, but yeah, hoping for something working. That would be amazing. So not only was this not the 2020 MacBook, but it turns out they wrapped it in plastic because it has some nasty kind of mold all around it. So I'll probably die young because I opened this package up and breathed the air. Oh well, you don't win them all. On my way to Buffalo, Minnesota to pick up the VIC-20 in a Commodore 128D case. We'll be there in 10 minutes. Hopefully the person messages me with where we're meeting, because yeah, that would be helpful. So don't want to be waiting around Buffalo. Who knows though, maybe Buffalo's interesting. Well, I just got back, and of course the guy had other stuff to sell me too, and of course I couldn't resist. He sold me a 1084 monitor with a bad power button, but with the replacement power button, and an actual Commodore 128D with keyboard for $300. So yeah, couldn't resist that. So we'll see how these work out. Time to unload these guys. Hopefully we'll find the mythical 2020 MacBook Pro 16-inch somewhere. Oh my god, those boxes are heavy. Once boxes get up to the like 80 to 100 pound mark, forget it. Ugh. So this is it. This is the 2020. You can tell because it's got the escape key, the separate escape key. That was the developers hated the escape key being on the touch bar, so they made it separate like that on the 2020. Whew, sorry, out of breath. But unfortunately, this is not a good sound to hear when you are pressing keys. So, but on the positive side, we are getting that. So it is alive. We'll see what happens after it charges for a little while. All right, got it all inside. Wow, these are heavy. Nice of them to throw in some batteries there. Good to see. These are mostly 2012-ish. Although we have some 15-inch 1286s. I believe some of these are newer Airs. Quite a few Retinas. Here's the moldy cancer laptop. Yeah, 1278s. Oh my gosh, I cannot believe this. This machine works 100%. It was not managed, it was not activation locked, nothing. It just powered on. Incredible. It was abandoned, I guess, just because of the crunchy keys. That's it. Wow. It's 2019, not 2020. 32 gig. Only 500 gig SSD, but 32 gig. It's got discrete graphics. beautiful machine, 16-inch. So guess who just got a new personal laptop? I'm going to swap this with my 2018 I found a couple weeks ago. The 2018 is actually an i9, so I'll have to check and see which one is technically more powerful, but you know, nothing wrong with this one. It's got the faster RAM. Probably switch to this regardless, just because of the screen and other things. Okay, so on to the main event. This is the monitor I got from the guy and the 128D. The keyboard that came with it definitely had an issue. I think there's a stuck key because the whole keyboard behaves strangely. So I'll have to explore what that is. This is my tried and true bright yellow 128D keyboard, and it is working fine. So the monitor issue is just that this is stuck on. The power is stuck on. So that's not bad. I can deal with that. So turn this guy on. Here is 128 mode. Commodore 128s. I'm sorry. This is 128 mode, but this is 80 column mode. They have a special 80 column mode, which requires a nicer monitor if you want to see it clearly anyway. And then you switch back to the regular mode, hit the 4080 column key, and now you are in 128 mode, 40 column, and go 64. And then you're in 64 mode. So this appears to be a great machine. I tried Pac-Man loading on the drive. So yeah, we have a good 128D. Hopefully there's just some gunk in the keyboard that I can resolve, and then I'll have a keyboard for each, because these are hard keyboards to come by. All right, here we are, the moment you've been waiting for. These all look like Commodore 128Ds, right? Well, one of them is not. One of them is a VIC-20. Can you tell which one? I can't, just from this view. But I will turn it on. Aha, it's the second one. And look at that. It is a VIC-20, and it's been massively upgraded in terms of RAM. 28K. Tons of RAM. And it works. Look at that. Crazy. Insane. Until yesterday, I'd never even heard of this thing. So look at this. This is a 1571 disk drive on a Commodore VIC-20. I don't even know how, I don't think I've ever connected a disk drive to a VIC-20. So I'm barely familiar with whether or not they would work the same as a 64. But obviously this is a 64 game, so I'm not expecting that to work. But wow, very bizarre. I mean, it's okay, so we don't have the reset button. Looks like that's gone. We've got one joystick port, which makes sense. Looks like we don't have a a cassette port. Other side, nothing on the other side. But yeah, let's take a look at the insides and everything else. Here we are in the back. I just plugged in Seamus, the game. We'll turn that on in a minute. It was a little tricky getting it into the cartridge port, but that's the same with the normal VIC-20 too. So you have video, you have, my mind is blanking at the moment, but the other port, and then you have the dataset port and the user port that we were looking for on the other side. Of course, they're going to be back here. I wasn't thinking. They're not going to be on the side of the computer. So let's turn on the machine and see if the game comes up. Okay, so long story short, Seamus didn't work. I think it's probably a bad cartridge, but I plugged in my known working version of Gorf, my Gorf cartridge, and here we are. Look at that. Okay, so I took the top off, and it's pretty interesting. It's mostly a Commodore 128D, I would say. This is the power supply, I assume the 128D power supply. This is the 1571 drive. This is the 1571 board but as you can see, it's turned sideways so that the DIN ports are facing inward instead of outside the machine. And there's this cable here going back to under the power supply where it's hacked to the board. It's kind of interesting. And then you have here, this is the power connector that faces outward but is now blocked for the VIC-20 board, which is this long thing here. And this is now connected to the power supply. What else do we have? The keyboard connector right there is connected to this ribbon cable, which then goes under the power supply. So a whole bunch of stuff going on under the power supply where these hacks connect to the VIC-20. What else do we have? Yeah, the RAM upgrade. Look at that. So at first I thought maybe they were utilizing a VIC-20 RAM expansion cartridge because those are so common, but it doesn't look like it. It looks like they just stacked a bunch of chips, which is kind of a wonky way to do it, I would assume, but hey, it works. So there you go. That's about all I can think of to say about this thing. Pretty crazy. Let me know if you have any ideas of what to try with this, things to look for, all of that. It'd be pretty cool to get some software on disk to use with a VIC-20. Again, I'm still just... It kind of blew... back in the day, just didn't use a disk drive with a VIC-20, and you didn't really get software for a VIC-20 on disk drive. So that idea still kind of throws me, especially using a 1571 with a VIC-20. It's kind of crazy. And then the RAM upgrade, too. So this might actually be a good machine to try Petsky Robots, the 8-Bit Guys game, because it's got the RAM. Conceivably, you could get the program on disk somehow, and then yeah, I think it would be a good machine for that. That's about it for this video. I won't bother showing you most of the other machines I got because they're more or less straightforward. You saw the most interesting one, and yeah, I've got a mess to clean up, and I'll talk to you next time.